Hi, my name is Nisha and I'm the Program and Operations Manager for AWAM. AWAM is a women's rights organisation and the work that we do involves fighting against gender-based violence. It affects people obviously in many ways. It causes a lot of anxiety, it causes a lot of stress, it causes a lot of distress, and in certain cases, as I mentioned earlier, it even causes the end of somebody's lives. Okay, so the perpetrators for gender-based violence is usually men. The majority are men. The victims are majority. The majority of gender-based violence victims are women. But there's also perpetrators who are women, and there are also victims who are men, or survivors who are men.
Saya pernah, masa tu pada tahun 2011, saya still belajar lagi masa tu, diploma part 2. Masa tu saya dalam course graphic design.
Benda tu ada berlaku. Antaranya masa bekerja sebagai lecturer dulu lah.
No, both times it was a complete random stranger. I didn't know the person.
Saya dah terjumpa berdepan, dan masa tu dia tak duduk dekat-dekat dan dia macam cuba bergesel-gesel badan dia dengan saya.
Detail siapa, nombor plat pun kita tak ingat sebab takut. So kita orang macam terus pecut je bawa motor gitu kan. Dia cerita kat parents lah. So parents macam cakap jangan lalu situ lagi. Padahal tempat tu memang kawasan rumah orang.
So they immediately pushed him away and we called the person in charge and they got rid of him. So the first person acknowledged what he had done. Memang kita report lah sampai kita beritahu kat kawan kita beritahu kat superior kita. Dan kalau superior kita yang buat, kita beritahu pada HR. Dan rasa macam kalau HR still tak boleh buat apa, maybe kita boleh report polis kot. Kumpulkan evidence. So that's the last result lah yang kita boleh buat.
Kita cari orang yang betul-betul selamat. Mak bapak ke tanya.
And I think they should seek help immediately lah, instead of taking it alone, which I think is the worst case for a victim to not talking to others and trying to hide the experience, the situation from other people.
Seek help, talk to people. If you can process it by yourself and move on, that's good. But if it's something that's really troubling you, it's not making your life any easier, there are people out there who are willing to help, to listen, especially your friends and family. I think it's very important for you to make sure they know. And at that time of it happening, if can, let the person in charge know that something is going wrong.
Hi everyone, and welcome to A Safe Space Let's Talk About It webinar, where we'll get serious about the discussions on sexual harassment, awareness, knowing your rights, and ensuring that everyone is well educated about this issue. I, Rosan Mala, better known as Ross, will be your moderator for tonight. Let me introduce to you the entire production crew. We have Lai Junhao, the project leader, who made everything work accordingly in order. Noor Tihani, who is the ideal contributor and the driving force of this project. And Muhammad Aiman, our tech support, who helped in creating the official A Safe Space Let's Talk About It Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram account. I would also like to give a special shout out to the Faculty of Education's Division of the University of Malaya Student Union, UMSU, for this wonderful collaboration. A special thanks to Fauzan, the leader of FacEdu's UMSU, who gave the green light to our collaboration. To the media team, Damia as the leader, Munif, Zahirul, Fatiha Firdaus, Ria. They made all the promotional posters, the A Safe Space logo, and helping to live stream this on the FacEdu's UMSU FB page that you're watching on right now. And the protocol team as well, with Effie as the leader, Liana, Najiha, Dania, Nor Fatiha. They're the ones who helped with the tentative planning of this webinar. With everyone's hard work, this webinar is successfully broadcasted, so thank you so much. This wouldn't be possible without all of you. Now, there are 3 segments to this webinar. The first segment on psychology and therapy, the second segment on reaching out for help, and the third segment on legal matters. There will be breaks and videos in between. All right, so let us begin this journey through this right now.
Thank you, Rosan. If you were to ask me early last year what you can do to help a victim of domestic violence or sexual abuse, honestly, I wouldn't know what to say. I'd most likely tell you to lodge a police report. I mean, that seems to be the most logical option and seems easy enough, doesn't it? But as I found out, in reality, it's far from it. My organization, the White Hatters, in partnership with Casa Rauda, a crisis shelter for victims of domestic violence, led a couple of national campaigns in Singapore last year. One was titled End Domestic Violence Starts With Me, where the focus was to encourage and enable individuals within the family and community to step forward to help de-escalate or even prevent incidents of domestic violence from happening. This was our unique value proposition. And the messaging had to be consistently clear that domestic violence is not a private or personal matter. It is a social one. Just as you may never know who has been or still is a victim of domestic violence, you may never know who among your family and friends are victims of sexual abuse. For me, I found out through conversations. Several were young when it happened and are only coming to terms with it in adulthood. Others were abused as adults by individuals in positions of power and influence. Knowing that, we had to do something. So that was how a holding space came about. Figuratively and literally, it is about holding a space for victims and survivors to be heard and listened to with an open heart and a silent mind. As the first public awareness campaign against sexual abuse in Singapore, we faced major challenges right from the start. We were constantly asked why. Why is there a need for such a campaign? Why do you want to open a Pandora's box? Why now? And our response has always been the same: because it needs to be done. Given what we've heard and what we've read, we knew that this campaign is something that we needed to do, even if sexual abuse is considered a taboo subject, especially within our Asian community. We know the sensitivities involved, considering that the perpetrators of sexual abuse are familiar to the victims. It can be a family member, a family friend, a trusted neighbor, a respected member of the community, or even a religious leader. It's precisely because of who the perpetrators are that most victims can't bring themselves to tell anyone about the incident. Some may even end up depressed, have symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, or even suicidal tendencies. So we stand with the victims. A holding space is about them and is for them. It is our way of showing and lending support to the survivors. So when the organizers of this webinar contacted me, I was more than happy to engage them in a discussion. And even though I'm not a subject matter expert, I did share my learning points from having led national campaigns. Junha, Rosan, Aiman, Tihani and I had a very robust discussion, and I felt that they have put together a great program with an amazing lineup of speakers. So let's talk about sexual harassment and how it is played out in the day-to-day. So examples of sexual harassment includes unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature in the workplace or learning environment. That's pretty much the definition. But sexual harassment does not always have to be specifically about sexual behavior or directed at a specific person. For example, negative comments about women as a group may be a form of sexual harassment. Now, I'd like you to take a moment and think about this. What do you understand by the term sexual harassment? Where do you draw the line between teasing and joking among friends to sexually harassing someone? If you're not sure, then this is a good time to start talking about it. Have honest conversations. And whatever information you have learned, share. You don't know, ask. Find out how to support one another. These are examples of doing something. Take small steps and don't give up. And for the victims of sexual violence, do know that recovery is possible. But it will take time as everyone deals with trauma differently. Remember, you may not be able to change the world, but you can do something to make it a bit better. Thank you and stay safe, everyone. Back to you, Rosan.
So we'll start with the first segment on psychology, where we'll learn about the minds of the perpetrators, understanding the struggles of the victims. Here with me now is a senior lecturer from the Department of Educational Psychology and Counseling, Faculty of Education in University of Malaya, trained with the National Population and Family Development Board, NPFD, Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, She's also a registered counselor in 2011 with the Board of Counselors Malaysia, who has worked with adolescents and young adults on sexual matters. A Malaysian Psychological Association associate member who is dedicated towards her passion in contributing to the society. It's Dr. Asmawati, or in short, Dr. Azzi. Good to have you with us, Doctor. A safe space, let's talk about it.
Thank you, Ross. So, sexual harassment is one of the immoral acts committed by one person against another. And usually, this behavior is performed by individuals who are more powerful, they're feeling superior, and suffer from psychological well being. And this group of people usually has less stable life, family, and they usually have relationship issues. So if seen in Malaysia for criminal cases of sexual harassment in 2017, there's a total of 314 cases convicted of criminal cases of child sexual abuse. So the Deputy Minister of Women, Family and Community Development, yang berbahagia Siti Zaila Muhammad Yusof, has also stated that a total of 1,721 cases of sexual crimes against women were recorded in the period from January to June 30th this year, despite the movement control order. And the annual comparison, if you see, from 2010 to 2017, shows that there is an increase with an overall average of 22,234 cases of child sexual abuse, or also known as CSA, and has been tabled in the Parliament of Malaysia. This increase is also further saying or strengthening the fact that incidences of sexual harassment amongst children does happen. And like I said earlier, amongst women also is increasing during the MCO. So when you talk about sexual harassment, the question you might ask is that, does it has impact on the victim? Obviously, sexual harassment has a negative impact on the victim, which may cause the victim to experience trauma, phobias, fear, and may affect their daily routine. This indirectly affects the productivity of an individual. Therefore, it is very important for all of us to know about sexual harassment, how it's actually being conducted, and how to avoid becoming a victim of sexual harassment. Next, sexual harassment, what does it mean? It means inappropriate behavior through words, gestures, touches, psychological and visual elements that are usually done repeatedly. Sexual harassment also involves obscene words and has a hidden desire, for the perpetrator to have sex, and this may lead to rape. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Human Resources Malaysia stated that sexual harassment is actually defined as any unwanted sexual behavior and has an effect as a disorder, whether this could be said as verbal, visual, psychological, or even physical. In addition, according to Sinclair and Arnold in 1994, sexual harassment can be referred to as one form of discrimination involving abuse, humiliation, and behavior that can threaten the parties involved by individuals, to fulfill the sexual desires of that perpetrator. Accordingly, there are different categories or forms of sexual harassment that we all must know or understand. The 5 categories of acts that give meaning to sexual harassment, according to Wilson, 1995, namely are being grouped into non-verbal. Okay, those are picture display, whistling, the sound, the sexual gestures. And the next one is actually physical. Okay, when I talk about whistling, it's like, sometimes when you walk by and then you've heard boys, for example, if you're, girls passing by, you can hear the boys whistling. Okay, and things like that, that may actually attract attention or give that notion that that makes you feel uncomfortable, and that can be considered as sexual harassment. Physical, when I talk about physical, it's not necessarily by touching. Oral statements oral. That can, when I talk about oral, it's in the form of statements, suggestions, and conversations that are usually sexual in nature. Intimidation, that's number 4, in the form of pornographic comments about clothing, appearance, or actions. You know, the way they actually say things and the way, you know, non-verbal interactions. Yeah. Extortion, that can be also a form of sexual harassment. In addition, sexual harassment that can be listed through definition. When I talk about sexual harassment, it could actually be discussed in the form of verbal harassment. Yeah. So this verbal harassment is expressed in behaviors that lead to sexual harassment, such as through words, like I said, comments, jokes, teasing, sounds and questions in the form of threats or even sexual threats. Sometimes boys and girls, you don't realize that you're making the other party uncomfortable by, to you it's just a joke, but to other party it's considered as making them uncomfortable. Again, if one feels uncomfortable, that can lead to sexual harassment. Visual harassment is actually disorders that are categorized as visual impairments. On the other hand, state behaviors such as showing pornographic materials. Yeah, so I'm not talking about visual impairments here. Yeah, basically I'm saying those behaviors that includes pornographic materials, drawing pornographic pictures, writing sexually explicit letters, and exposing inappropriate body parts. Yeah, okay. The next one is actually psychological harassment. This is the form of repetition of social invitations that have been rejected, persuading persistently to go out together on a date or flirting. You know, sometimes when you ask a girl on a date, or when a girl asks a boy on a date, and you keep on pressuring. So when you give pleasure and the other party doesn't like it, that's also a form of sexual harassment. The next one is physical harassment. It's a form of behavior of such as unwanted touch, patting, pinching, rubbing, that may include hugging, kissing, and making sexual attacks. Yeah. Let's talk about the factors of sexual harassment, or probably what leads to people being harassed. Yeah. So when we talk about the occurrence of sexual harassment, yeah, it's also due to several factors that cause this negative act to continue. So among others, the factors are the perpetrator being attracted to the physical or personality of an individual. For example, when someone have this is based on the perpetrator's view. Yeah, so based on according to the perpetrators, one of the perpetrator that I have actually personally talked to, based on what he says. So he actually said about someone's attractive and sexy body shape that is playing repeatedly in their mind, and that is the dream body, so-called. And especially the group that is the main target, none other than women. The predators or perpetrators are usually attracted to an individual's physique, will try the various ways to approach these victims, and they will then begin their sexual harassment through methods of repeatedly inviting to go out, or probably touching, groping, and in many forms. So another factor, according to the predator's view, is what the victims wear. That also could be another factor that leads to the occurrence of this sexual disorder. There are some women that wears, just a short skirt and eye-catching clothing. But personally, I don't think so. This should be the the explanation to why they can behave the way they behave. But again, this is what goes in their mind. So, like I said, these are the views from the predator, or rather the perpetrators. Yeah, they deliberately. According to the predators, these women deliberately expose their bodies to the idea, and to give this victim, rather to give these predators the idea of being sexy and attractive. And to them, this is very eye-catching, and it's also like, inviting the feelings that they have within them to actually start with their sexual harassment. Again, I disagree with this, but these are from the viewpoints of the perpetrators. Yeah. So the relationship between men and women now is quite open when we talk about how they could actually interact with one another. Yeah. So, but this has been taken in a very negative way, where they think when they have a very open kind of relationship, or rather when one should be able to speak to another different gender, but they took the opportunity to give that the wrong idea, or to them it is not wrong to associate with men and women, but it is actually necessary to have limitations so as not lead to these negative acts. But the predators, they took advantage of this. Yeah. Another reason is probably power. Power can also be the cause of this widespread sexual harassment. Well, according to organizational theory, it is stated that sexual harassment is due to organizational factors in the company that often places men in a more authoritative position than women. So this causes them probably to try and get sexual satisfaction from their subordinates. Remember I told you about power earlier? The superiors or people in power, they usually, they are the ones that is sexual harassment, according to the definition. Yeah, but not necessarily. Yeah. So again, because most of the hierarchy in the organization is more owned by this men, makes this results in sexual harassment to happen amongst women, and these are the vulnerable groups, okay, where they uses their power to get what they want. And finally, the ego factor. So this may be one of the causes of sexual harassment, when the man's ego is actually challenged by his friends, his colleagues. And this is just being done to prove that he is strong and brave in any challenge given to him, including by molesting, pinching, teasing the victim. Just to them it's just jokes probably. Well, obviously not molesting, but pinching and teasing to them probably is just a joke. But again, remember the key word: if you do not agree, if you're not happy, if you don't feel comfortable, not talking about happy, if you do not feel comfortable at all, okay, that remember that is not the way of being treated. Okay, that's not the right way of how one should. In Malaysia, sexual harassment, you can hear sometimes this happen. Yeah, it should not be something that is accepted. Yeah, please bear in mind that this is something that should not be. You shouldn't be tolerant about it. Yeah, this is because sexual harassment can have serious impact on the victim emotionally and psychologically. If this is allowed, what do you think will happen? If this is allowed to linger without taking any action, it will have a worse effect on an individual. The psychological effect is like the victim. For example, the first thing that will happen is you feel fearful, angry, and you feel that you have no motivation to work any further because you're already a victim, and perhaps you may lose interest. And what we fear is that it will the suicidal thoughts. And before that, the victim may isolate themselves and may feel lonely because they are fearful. They fear for their lives. They fear that if they report, they might lose their job. If they report, they will be embarrassed because people will say that it's because of you. All right? So what will happen to the victim? Usually they will experience stress and then acute anxiety, chronic anxiety that leads to depression and trauma. There are also victims in the long run who actually face how they feel is they felt inferior. They felt guilty. They are the reason why they are actually being harassed. No, that is not a good excuse, okay? That is never an excuse. If you want to wear, for example, skirt, So that is not an excuse for you to feel bad, because that is your right. All right. So nobody should tell you that, hey, because you are wearing a skirt, or you're wearing something, you're wearing a skirt basically, that you have to be sexually harassed. That is just a wrong, what you call that, a wrong thinking way to think. All right. So in terms of emotions, victims of sexual harassment will bear the same shame, because society will look down on them. Like I said, they will feel embarrassed because they fear that people will actually blame them, and they will also live in fear of remembering things that have happened. And perhaps this may lead to them being afraid to continue living as before. So again, this will also have a negative impact on the career of the individual. Say, for example, if this happens in the university, it will impact on how you are actually studying. The victim will experience stress, and if not treated, will most likely lead to other complications. What we worry about is mental health. Okay, this indicates that sexual harassment has a detrimental effect on the mental health of an individual experiencing it. So it is appropriate that legal action should be taken against the perpetrator, so that this problem does not drag on and occur to other individuals. So what I'm trying to say here, if you know this happens to your friend or your family or even to yourself, do not be fearful. Yeah. So what can you, among the actions that can be taken if the victim feels that he has been sexually harassed, is to report to the authorities. So reports can basically be made to police by bringing solid evidence and obtaining proper and understanding what to do, or you have to go certain procedures. So reports should also be made at an immediate rate, immediately, as soon as sexual harassment is being committed. Okay. Victims can also seek advice from psychology officers, counselors, the public service department for employees, or agencies that handle sexual harassment. If it happens in organizational or in organizations or at the workplace, you could actually go back to your human resource. If it happens in the university, you could always go to the higher authority. That can be your lecturer, or that could be your deputy dean, or even the dean of the faculty. Also, please keep all the evidences. By keeping a written record that describes each incident of sexual harassment from the beginning, including what happened, where, date, the time, who were there, who were at the scene. So this is actually very important. Complete evidence and information is actually needed to facilitate in the action process. These written records can also be important evidence in internal investigations or legal action against the perpetrator. So in addition, the victim is also advised to keep copies of notes, documents, letters related to the disturbance. Okay. If harassment is committed in the workplace, obtain a copy of the work performance or any memorandum or letter related to the quality of work to strengthen the evidence. For example, your work, the quality of work is deteriorating, and you've got letter from HR. At the same time, you've got evidences from those who actually harass you. You could actually use that evidence for example, you receive WhatsApp, being sexually harassed through WhatsApp. You can actually use that to show it to the superior in HR perhaps. Okay. Next, in the event of sexual harassment, the victim can always go to someone that he or she trusts. For example, family, friends who can help to lighten the load. For example, somebody to listen to, somebody that you can share, somebody that you trust at the end of the day. It also serves a good idea for those people, especially for all of you out there. If you know that someone is actually being sexually harassed, give them the support. Emotional support is actually very important. This is because individuals who experience sexual harassment will experience emotional changes and trauma. Remember, your psychological well-being, what you feel or what you think will affect how you feel, and that will be translated into behavior. So you need to make sure that you can help them by understanding how to help them think the right way, so that they could actually let go to achieve catharsis. Okay, let go that emotions that has been internalized. Yeah. and later they can feel that the load is being taken off them. And what next? The victim is advised to submit an official complaint to the employer, such as the boss, chairman, supervisor, or any responsible party to take appropriate action. Again, remember, do not be afraid. Complaints must be made using the correct and the right procedure, and do not delay. Report immediately. Sad thing is, many consider sexual harassment is a trivial issue. It is not a trivial issue. Yeah, it is a national problem, labor problem probably, that is still under control, perhaps within that organization. But how do you actually rate when you say under control? So only the victim knows. So always when somebody tells you that he or she is being sexually harassed, provide the emotional support, guide them on how best they could actually lodge complaints. Yeah, sexual harassment is actually a sexual discrimination. Remember that. In criminal prosecution, sexual harassment is only considered a trivial matter, and the relevant legal provisions are rarely used to resolve a case. Courts are more likely to use sexual assault provisions for cases that have difficulty in proving rape cases. Okay, so overall, in conclusion, victims of sexual harassment are seen to experience physical and psychological stress. There are many problems of sexual harassment that occur in the environment. Environment means out there, whether at school, in the university, work, or even at home, regardless of age, gender, race, and religion. This problem needs to be addressed immediately and efficiently by the relevant parties in an effort to protect the dignity of an individual, especially women. In this regard, we all have a role to play. We should change this bad, stigmatization or labeling of victims of sexual harassment. Instead, what we should do is to provide support, okay? And in order for all these issues to be contained, we need to give hope to these victims, and we need to stop sexual harassment in total. Thank you very much.
Some questions from the public were gathered via Google form. So here is a question for you, Doctor. In your opinion, can sexual education help in preventing sexual harassment? If so, how and why?
Thank you, Ross, for the question. I do believe that the role of education in preventing sexual misconduct is very important. I'm just going to focus on the three main ideas for improving sex education to create a culture that could actually prevent sexual misconduct leading to sexual harassment. As a researcher on sexuality and understanding the behavior of adolescents, I know that preventing sexual misconduct starts with education that shifts the paradigms and norms that we have about sex, relationships, and bodily autonomy. In Malaysia, it's a taboo. In Malaysia, we do not have a proper syllabus to teach about sexuality or even sex education. And by the time you have reached adulthood, it's not the best time to start these conversations. By then, our culture and our media have already sent millions of messages in the wrong direction. And to say that discussing about sex and sexuality is the enemy is the least effective approach, because these young ones will actually go through the internet. Okay, and they may get the wrong impression. So it is very important that we talk about what sex is all about, understanding the sexuality in the late childhood and teen years. This is when the more likely that the teenagers and the teens they have this self-efficacy and personal advocacy towards their own self. As educators, it's also very important, it's our goal and it's also our responsibility to nurture the student, to make sure that they understand what sexuality is all about. So again, like I said, I'm just going to give you the three top guidelines for creating cultures, or rather to make sure that all these young ones understand about what it is harassment. First things first is to discuss consent in all its form. Like I said, consent is not as simple as a cup of tea. Okay, we've all grown up in a culture that promotes assault, harassment through movies, music, advertisements. So we're fed a steady stream of stories about unhealthy relationships that are presented as romantic, seductive, or humorous. Interpersonal communication continues to follow scripts that promote dishonesty and toxic gender roles. So, with boys being depicted as sexually insatiable and never victimized, and girls as good and sexually pure or at risk and hypersexualized. So, all the victimization is towards the is gender bias. And all of these depictions fit into the concept that we call, rape culture, the beliefs, the myth, and social scripting that promote and maintain sexual violence. So consent is far more than no means no and even yes means yes. Yeah, it does not just mean that. It just not covers all the dynamics involved in authentic, affirmative, and enthusiastic consent. So you need to understand that when we talk about concepts of token resistance and token resistance is the expectation of a no when the individual really wants to say yes. Example, good girls are supposed to not like sex, and their no supposedly mask their genuine desires, whereby token compliance is the flip side. A person saying yes rather say no. So therefore, to educate on consent, we must address these points honestly. It is very important to have these conversations in a healthy classes where sex and relationships are actually discussed, and it's not too limiting to create the shift in cultural values, because we need to heal the structural inequalities that actually is what we're experiencing is to explain what sexual subjectivity is all about. Sexual subjectivity is an individual's ability to reflect on their sexual needs, identity, and rights to pleasure. Together, these concepts form the foundation for creating cultures of consent. So all communal transformation begins with empowering the individual. I do a lot of research on empowering. So I do feel that self-empowerment is actually very important, because you know how to take care. Self-care is part of the bigger self-care is actually part of self-empowerment, where self-empowerment is the bigger umbrella. So help students or help others to unlearn messages about sexual shame, victim blaming, and slut shaming, and teach them instead about body image, sexual empowerment. It's okay to say no, okay, and their right to sexual pleasure and also autonomy. So you need to actually understand this so that you can shift the current paradigm. Yeah. Finally, is to promote healthy relationships for everyone. So part of creating a consent culture is actually interacting, whether in friendship, flirting, and dating, or long-term and marital relationships. Both empathy and consent must be present. So conversations that assume that everyone is cisgender or heterosexual are not the answer, and neither are ones that paint every victim of assault as female, because they aren't, yeah? And every perpetrator as male, not necessarily commit abuse and assault too, okay? So we must break away from these stereotypes and decolonize these discussions. So every culture, ethnicity, and religion has a unique perspective on and expectation for courtship, love, and sex. So ensuring that consent is culturally humble and inclusive is a key to guaranteeing its applicability in every community. So therefore, we must look critically at whether our depictions of sexuality are centered on understanding or limited in terms of cultural perspective. So we should consult consent educators from other cultures and communities to ensure that we understand what it is all about. So when do we begin this work? As soon as our children, as soon as we know that they can understand the language. So you need to actually share or tell or inform the children, the teenagers, okay, or young adult, to take responsibility of their body. Thank you. Therefore, in conclusion, sex or sexuality education is very important to prevent sexual misconduct or that leads to sexual harassment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Azi, for this informative session with you. I'm sure that viewers will finally get the idea of the importance to be aware of sexual harassment and at least realize that it is a serious issue that affects the mental and well-being of the people. To all of you who are watching this, take note on all the types of sexual harassment out there and remember to stay safe and support everyone regardless. May a safe space be formed.
When you make someone feel uncomfortable in maybe a sexual way, so dia boleh jadi either verbally or non-verbally.
I and like a lot of my friends face plenty of sexual harassment, especially when you go out on the street. We go to bars, especially men keep either trying to flirt with us, although we don't ask them to, or worse so they chase us down the road. I've also encountered men who simply come up to me and grab my ass.
Maksudnya kita cakap dengan dia yang okay, kau tahu tak apa yang kau buat ni salah ke, apa benda contoh macam tu. And then kalau tak berkesan, kita boleh report ataupun lapor kepada pihak atasan ke management dekat tempat kerja tu lah untuk lakukan sesuatu, sebab benda tu dah memang terang-terang melanggar hak asasi lah sebagai seorang wanita kan contohnya. Okay, kalau tak berkesan juga mungkin boleh terus pergi ke apa-apa organisasi, banyak je organisasi NGO yang menyediakan khidmat untuk kita bagi tahu ataupun kita laporkan sebarang penindasan.
Right now there's no clear like accountability to sexual harassment, so that's where the problem is. So once they start implementing it legally, then social changes will start to happen, and that's what we want. Help define what sexual harassment is should also be made compulsory in all companies, because not everyone knows what sexual harassment means.
Terdapatnya orang yang melakukan gangguan seksual tu merasakan diri mereka mempunyai satu kuasa untuk membuli mangsa.
Right now, sexual harassment policies only acts at the workplace. So places such as public areas like transportation or clubs that you attend, political party gatherings and all, does not have any sexual harassment policies. So this bill acts to cover all these gaps so that the public can also be protected against sexual harassment. According to Awam's latest Telenita research, majority of sexual harassment cases happen in public among strangers. Yes. So this bill acts to cover sexual harassment misconducts in public areas. Not much awareness from the public about how the sexual harassment bill can help them. So this is where Awam enters in as the stakeholder that provides this awareness and educational programs. So we do this through online and offline campaigns, workshop and trainings that we are very actively conducting, and participating in media outreach. I think we have appeared in a few that you've seen as well. Including making this video, yes, to create public awareness.
Hello and welcome back to this segment of Getting Help, where we'll be discussing on where people should seek help for any sexual harassment cases. Joining me right now is the Program Officer of All Women's Action Society, or in short better known as AWAM. AWAM has carried out sexual harassment programs, which includes managing training sessions, sourcing new program partners, as well as supervising projects. AWAM has also done gender-based violence campaign, everything in relation to the sexual harassment bill, which AWAM has also been involved in. Here with me right now is a sexual harassment awareness rights advocate. It's Miss Lillian. Hi, Miss Lillian. Thank you so much for joining me right now.
Hi, Ross. Thank you for having me to represent AWAM today.
Yes, thank you so much. For everyone's information, AWAM is an independent feminist non-profit organization established in 1985 with the mission of helping victims and survivors of gender-based violence, such as rape, domestic violence, and sexual harassment. So, a safe space, let's talk about it. Miss Lillian, please give us all a brief meaning on what sexual harassment is.
All right. So basically, right, sexual harassment is any unwanted conduct of a sexual nature which is perceived by the recipient as hostile, offensive, degrading, humiliating, or threatening to his or her well-being. So intent is not necessary. Sometimes we don't know, we are not sure whether we are sexually harassing someone or not, but as I said, it is perceived by the recipient. So if you feel harassed, then it can be constituted as sexual harassment. So basically, there are 6 known types of sexual harassment, but each of it is has various levels of it, right? So typically, we have the physical and the verbal kind of sexual harassment, which is like catcalling for verbal, right? And then non-verbal, which is like flashing. And then we have the more subtle one, which is a psychological sexual harassment, which is very interesting to me because it is a situation where someone persistently asks you out on a date or make advances towards you, right? So and then now since MCO, right? Since the whole thing with COVID, this wonderful gift that 2020 gave us, we saw a rise in online sexual harassment. So ourselves, we have received 133 cases from January to November. 59 of these cases are sexual harassment, online sexual harassment. Sorry, yeah. So this is due to the V2K cases and the fact that a lot of people are sitting at home comfortably in their safe space and feeling free to harass everybody in anonymity. And this is basically what sexual harassment is about. It's about an imbalance of power. And so people do it because they can, and they go all out of their way to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yes, especially in this time where the use of the internet is on the rise. Yeah, online sexual harassment, or probably even verbal sexual harassment. It's really seem to be increasing these days, and it's very dangerous. Even though there's not much of physical sexual harassment going on, but even these little things actually seems to be a very huge matter, and it gives off a huge impact to the victims as well. So based on the types of helps offered by AWAM, does AWAM actually provide any shelter or support groups, possibly even more to the victims?
Right. So in AWAM, right, we have a services department where it consists of counselors, legal aid pupils, and then it's run by this very, very capable services program officer. So AWAM per se does not have a shelter, but we do work with other organizations that do have a shelter, and we also try to work closely with JKM or Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat, or in English, the Department of Social Welfare, to get space in the shelters for survivors of gender-based violence, or basically anyone who needs it. We provide our services provide free counseling and free legal information, as well as we do accompany the survivors to go make a police report if they need any accompaniment.
Right. So does AWAM assign a person to solve and handle a victim's case?
I think the capacity that you're talking about is a social worker, right? Currently, AWAM does not have that kind of capacity. It is still handled by the services program of the services officer. Therefore, we try to accommodate as much as we can. So, to anyone out there who's watching, if you have any kind of background in counseling or law or whatnot, you can feel free to volunteer or intern with AWAM.
All right, thank you so much. I'm sure the viewers right now watching this would be feeling very interested to know more about AWAM, and hopefully, if let's say anyone interested, would definitely want to help AWAM. Yes, so does AWAM help in filing a police report if the victim wishes to?
Yes. So we do help the victims in filing a police report, and I will also like to stress that it is very important to know how to file a police report. It may sound very easy and trivial because it's not something that we do every day, right? We don't go make police reports every day, but I think some people do actually. But anyway, so we help them, to maybe cross the language barrier or the understanding barrier, or even the details that we put in a police report, because it matters.
It's still very informational. Thank you so much for that. Yes, the next one. Does AWAM follow up the victim's status after the case is settled for the victims to lead a normal life?
Yes, we do. Yes, we definitely follow up with all of the cases that we are handling. Ultimately, it is also up to the survivors to want to make that improvement in their life. AWAM is always there with our counseling, with our legal information. We can even provide, as you say, although we don't have the shelters, but we have the means to help you. But ultimately, it is up to the survivor if they still want, how determined they are to lead a normal life after that.
Yes, that is very reassuring, especially when victims, after they've have their case all settled out, but to be stepping back out in the society again, trying to be a normal person, it really takes the effort for them to feel right about themselves again. So thankfully, it's great news that AWAM actually, does help victims to step back up on their feet again and basically just carry out daily routines as usual. Yes, so with the name All Women's Action Society, does AWAM provide any help and also accept any male victims?
Yes, we do. Of course, we do. We help anyone who needs help. We are very accessible online. Even our location itself is accessible. So anyone is. We take everybody seriously, and we try to help everybody, even male survivors. And we do have had cases where the survivors are male.
So usually the male survivors, what is their age ranges?
To my knowledge, I personally have handled one case where the survivor is a male. Yep. And his age range was between 35 to 40. There's statistics by I think the previous deputy minister I think it's 1 in 5 survivors are male, and these are male who got harassed in the workplace. Yeah.
Oh wow. So this really truly shows that it's a very dangerous place out there, because any age, male, female, it's going to happen anywhere, anytime. So with all of this going on, definitely there needs to be something that's secured in the law so that the victims out there, they would, get their rights and basically be able to solve all these cases without any further obstacles. Therefore, we should basically shift the topic and talk about the sexual harassment bill. So for all of you who are watching this, it has been in over 20 years to draft and propose this bill in Malaysia. So I got this in the Awam website. Ooh, that's a very long time process to be doing this bill in Malaysia. And it's just for Malaysia. So do tell us, Miss Lillian, like what is the status update of this sexual harassment bill that it took so long to be drafted and proposed? Is it all finally worth it?
Yes, it is definitely worth it. So just a little recap, right? So this all started the whole campaign for to petition for this bill, right? It started with us doing an online petition first. So we did that online petition in late September, and on change.org, and we had over 17,000 e-signatures. So that is, and in less than 4 weeks, actually, we gathered 17,000 plus signatures, and that indicates a massive support for the need for a standalone sexual harassment bill to be passed. So we did not want to lose the momentum and disappoint these 17,000 plus voices, right? Because of the speed and the amount of support we got, we decided to do a physical petition and have an MP or a member of parliament to read out that petition during the Dewan Rakyat sitting. So that was supported by YB Kasturi Pato, the member of parliament for Batu Kawan. So she read our petition, which was signed by 152 Malaysians. Yeah. So what's amazing about this physical petition was we launched it during the CMCO, but we still managed to get all the signatures from all across the country. And even everyone who was living near Awam, they came like in the flow. There were just a flow of people coming through our doors, SOP comply, to sign the petitions. So that was really amazing.
Wow, that is definitely good news, especially getting a majority of the help Malaysians can offer, so to make this bill come to life.
Yeah, so right now, YB, after YB Kasturi read that bill, it is, she had 10 minutes to read it, right? So next year, we hope that they will table it, because at the moment, the bill is, it's at the Ministry of Law being reviewed. So let's see.
Yes, definitely. I am sure that all of the viewers watching this will be praying and hoping that, this bill will finally come to life, and all of the effort done by Awam as well as the other NGOs in proposing, drafting, trying to create a baby, with this bill, finally, becoming a reality. Yes, and it's yes, ensure that all the efforts are well worth it. It's been very long. It has to be out there for a better nation.
We would like to thank the students of University Malaya who supported us, because that petition was, flying around somewhere as well, and a lot of you signed. A lot of you. And also one more thing I would like to add on. We did a little survey with and about the prevalence of sexual harassment, and 37 boys were no, 15 out of 37 boys were harassed. 37 boys did the survey, and out of those 37, 15 boys were harassed. So there you go.
Well,
Goes back to your question earlier, actually, about male survivors. So these are your peers. Yeah.
Great. So, well, thank you so much, the viewers who are watching from University of Malaya. You did your part well, and thank you so much. I'm sure Awam appreciate all of the help given. Yes, so some questions were gathered from the public via Google form, and here is a question for you on behalf of Awam. Why do you think sexual harassment is a stigma in Malaysia, and how can we have a more public discussion about this?
Okay. So basically, this can be one of the factors is the normalization of sexual harassment. So we tend to promote the patriarchy. Not promote. We tend to live with this whole this patriarchy society, and this normalizes the behavior of sexual harassment, whereby when boys do a certain things when they grow up, they are allowed to because they are boys, right? So this also victim blaming. Somehow Malaysians have this very strong culture of victim blaming, because victim blaming actually it makes you safe when you just push the blame on someone else, because everybody is fearful of the idea that it could happen to you, right? So we kind of like to victim blame. So to think that, it only happens to some people, and then we characterize and judge what kind of people that all these things happen to. But in reality, things like sexual harassment happens to everyone, and everyone can be the perpetrator, men, women.
Right. So definitely, the world of positivity, Malaysia, we need that. We need that support, and stop bashing each other. Despite being the victim, it doesn't mean it's the victim's fault. Because it just happens.
Yeah, we also need to be good support system, whereby we need to stop this culture of normalization. So when someone shows you something and it's not very nice, you should say something. If it's your friend, it should be easier, right? It should be easy to say that, hey, that's not very nice. Like, you shouldn't be showing that to other people, things like that. So we have to start voicing out and stop the normalization.
Yes, we should definitely stop the normalization of all of this happening. So people should be well educated about sexual harassment. It's not a very nice thing to do.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well informed. I would say well informed better than well educated. Yeah, well informed about awareness and prevention, and being a good support system. That's very important.
Yes, definitely true. A good support system. I agree with you on that one, Miss Lillian. Yes. So, one last question. What is your advice on behalf of Awam to everyone who's watching this, especially university and college students, about being aware of sexual harassment?
Okay. So, apart from being a good support, right, for the self, if you are a survivor of sexual harassment, or if you're regardless whether you're currently or previously, you have to speak up. And it's very difficult to speak up. So I'm not going to tell you to speak up as in shout or just say no, because not everybody can do that. But you have to bear in mind that if you keep quiet, you are consenting. Silence is consent. So whatever you do, you can't don't keep quiet, right? So if you cannot speak up, you can write. You can write to the perpetrator directly, or maybe not, or you can document the event so that you can use it as evidence maybe later, or you can go to your support system. If you don't have any, you can always come to Awam. We are available. You can call us at 016 237 4221. If you can't get, if you don't have any access to the phone or WhatsApp, you can always get to us online, whether on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Yeah, so you can call us here 016 237 4221, or you can Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can follow us on social media as well to see what we are up to. Again, if like I said, if you want to volunteer with us, please do. Yes, we need that, and if you want to contribute to us in any way, you can do that too.
All right. So to everyone who's watching, here is the contact of Awam. So please do call up Awam if, let's say, you truly need any help. Thank you so much, Miss Lillian. This is a very meaningful session with you so far. A video clip from Awam will be shown after this segment, but please do check out Awam's website at www.awam.org.my for more info about Awam. Thank you once again, Miss Lillian, for joining me tonight. I hope that Awam has a brilliant sexual harassment bill fight next year, and things will finally come off much better for the whole entire nation, for a safer space in the society.
Hi, my name is Nisha and I'm the Program and Operations Manager for Awam. Awam is a women's rights organization, and the work that we do involves fighting against gender-based violence. Awam is a women's rights organization aimed at creating a just and equitable society where women are treated with respect and are free from all forms of violence and discrimination. Based on feminist principles, we seek to achieve our vision by building a movement that informs, connects, and mobilizes through various strategic programs. These programs include public education and training programs to raise awareness about topics along the lines of sexual harassment, domestic violence, feminism, gender inequality, and patriarchy. Our services program has a core activity of providing free counseling and legal information to people in crisis, and this is primarily aimed at women. The counseling approach is person-centric and feminist, where we educate our clients about their rights. Finally, we also have advocacy and public policy programs where we work with the government to push for stronger legislation that support and empower women. And we also work with the public and private sector to advocate for positive change for all.
We are back with a new segment of Legal Matters, where we'll be discussing on how survivors of sexual harassment can get their justice. Now, this segment is truly very important for all of the viewers watching this because it involves lodging a report, finding evidences, and ensuring that the case investigated is handled successfully. Here with me now is an inspector from the Gombak District Police Headquarters in Selangor who did handle some sexual harassment cases herself. It's Inspector Kalpana. Hi, Inspector. Thank you so much for joining me now.
Hi, good day to you also.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited with you.
All right, so a safe space, let's talk about this. Now, sexual harassment has many different forms, such as physical, verbal, online, and so much more. So we'll be discussing about this in general of everything. Inspector, please tell us what are the steps in filing a police report after the victims are sexually harassed?
Okay. Steps in filing police report by victim. What they must do is the victim must go to the nearest police station as soon as possible once the incident happened to them to lodge a report. And the victim must have few details with them. Example, they must, of course, for sure the time and date the incident happened. And then they must know the nature of harassment on witnesses, if there is any witnesses, eyewitnesses or any other recording CCTV. Okay, and then the very important thing, they must go as soon as possible to lodge a report so that the enforcement officer can start to investigate the cases. There is some victim which they are maybe feel so scared to go to police station. I have seen some victim, they will go to counselors or they go to psychiatry or they will tell to nearest very close person like friends or family or husband, anyone. Then they will accompany them. The closest person will accompany them to the police station because maybe they'll be still in trauma because of the incident.
So because of like you've mentioned about the CCTV footage and having all of like, if possible, any witnesses around, for example, maybe in certain situations where it's just only the victim and the perpetrator, nobody else in a room. Also, if it's, let's say, verbal, maybe the perpetrator assumes it's a joke and the victims, they actually felt that it is not a joke, it is actually a form of sexual harassment, but perpetrators, they do not understand. So how are the victims going to collect all of that, you say, extra supporting evidences to ensure that the case is successfully being lodged in the police report and there's no obstacles in solving this?
Yeah, evidence is very strong in one of the very important things to be investigate and to make sure the suspect or the harasser to be charged in the court. Okay, if most of the time the harasser or suspect will make sure he alone with the victim so that he can attack the victim. So in that particular case, the victim once she or her they have the thing happen, they can go to someone very close that that the incident happened. Means like this. Okay, only victim and suspect in one place. So when the victim will go to tell to one person, I have been through this. This person have been talking to me like this. Then that person, closest person, will become one of the witness in the case, which this victim tell to that witness in the same day in very short time, once after the incident happened. So we will record the statement of that person also. So that person also will say, yes, this victim, this person got tell me, the suspect got tell or showing something or behave by verbal. This one is for verbal one. Normally, there is no evidence like CCTV, no proof like any saved message or anything. If the thing happened by verbal, this is the thing, one thing the victim can do. Share the thing to another nearest person so that they can become a witness.
At least how many people should be helping this victim out in also reporting as the witness?
At least one person is enough. So we know once the thing happened, when the victim go to sexual harassment, then he immediately tell to one person. Maybe if example the victim is go through sexual harassment in workplace or in institute where she study, maybe he will tell to the colleague or the best friend. So the best friend will tell, yes, once the thing happened, she got tell me in the same day itself. So we know the chain of the case is like that. Minimum one person is enough.
All right. So another thing about this is that if, let's say, after the witness helped out the victim in stating that a certain situation has happened, so what usually determines the speed of the investigation to ensure that this case is settled quickly, or what made this investigation delayed?
Okay, once a victim lodge a report, we will start the investigation. Okay, the suspect will be arrested and remand. So we will bring to the magistrate court, we will ask permission for remand. The remand is purpose for investigation. Okay. Then at the end of the investigation, we will refer the case to Deputy Public Prosecutor to get the charge, to get this harasser or suspect to get charged in court. So the case will go trial at court. This is the procedure that we do in sexual harassment cases.
Is there a way for the victim to know the progress of the investigation?
Yes. Once the police start the investigation, we will give a black and white one letter. It's like we tell pemberitahuan in Malaysia. So it means we will tell to victim under what section we investigate that case, and then once the investigation finish and the suspect have been charged at court, we will send document also to them to tell on this date we have charged in which court under what section also to victim. But our procedure we will post. But if victim become reachable very fast, so we will be post or we will email to them.
All right, okay. So if a victim decides not to report immediately, probably because this victim is afraid of reporting about the situation that happened, so what are the effects of a delayed police report after the victims have been sexually harassed?
Effects of delayed police report. Okay. The only one thing we worry loss of solid evidence. This one is for the case with evidence. We worry we will lose the solid evidence. Example is CCTV recordings. Sometimes the incident took place in public places where there is CCTV recordings. When we go to find, it's override already. Or some eyewitnesses won't cooperate to give, maybe they have some personal reason, they don't want to cooperate with police to give statement regarding the case. And sometimes when too long, victim like their statement is how to say, we have to ask few times what exactly happened, what the correct the duration of time. They have to like go through few times to tell the real story. If few days is we can understand. Sure, they will understand. They can give us clear picture. But after few months, it's like they will take some time to tell this clear picture to us. What the incident happened.
Okay,
The
all
main
right. So if let's say there are certain cases where a case is suddenly closed without the victims knowing what just happened. It's been a while since the case has been investigated, but all of a sudden, just knowingly that it's closed, the victim has no idea what happened and why. So, in your perspective, Inspector, how did that happen and what made it happen?
okay. For the cases suddenly closed, the victim must be informed about this. The case, whether the suspect have been charged or the suspect has been released, and what the reason of these cases. Another thing, once the police officer remand, some suspect will have a lawyer on behalf of them, or during remand, or during we charge him, for during the case going on trial on court, they will these cases are bailable. So you can see very fast they can be bail out, and they will go for daily routine. Unless for the really closed case, never go to court, is depend on the cases. And normally victim will be they will be informed why these cases are closed. But delay of police report is not is the reason. As far as I know, delay of a police report is not the one reason to case closed. It maybe have some other reason. It's because all the sexual harassment is different. Some are verbal, some are physical. Some victims have go through sexual harassment visually. They don't have they maybe don't want to see the messages, don't want to see the pictures. They delete everything. So maybe that one we have very lack of evidence to charge the suspect. Maybe it can be one of the reason. This is the example I've seen so far.
All right, thank you so much for that, Inspector. So now, because as you've mentioned, getting all the evidences possible and straight make the police report once the incident happened, do not delay. So if let's say based on a physical sexual harassment form of like, let's say rape or anything else, so it is advisable for the victims to secure all evidences. Let's say maybe the outfit that she was wearing on the day that happened, that incident, that moment. And what else should the victim do if, let's say, he or she's being sexually harassed during that incident? Go straight to the police station, and what else to secure as evidences other than just the outfit, maybe not, like that's just one example, not changing the outfit because to like secure maybe the handprints or anything else.
Yeah. One thing is the outfit is advisable not to change. Another one, the place where the incident happened, do not clean or do not wipe, or better it not be touchable by anyone. Then for medical checkup, the police will bring. So must go to lodge the report first. Then we will accompany them to for medical checkup if for physical touching type sexual harassment. So despite clothes is praises, I think that's this only the most important thing. If the suspect or the harasser is a unknown person, if got any details, picture or anything, name or any details, personal details about suspect, that is very important.
All right. So that is on physical sexual harassment. So if let's say like because we talked about the verbal and online, so if it's the online, getting all of the evidences on the internet, probably maybe from chat boxes or the comments made and all of that. Any other details that the victims can get other than just those screenshots of messages?
Other than screenshot, the link, the victim can save the links, and then do not delete anything. Please do not delete anything, because sometimes we have to see from the start who beginning the chat and how is the chat going on, or the messages, or all, and then even audio also. Don't forward to any other devices and then delete the original. Please don't do that. Must keep everything safe so that we can, from the victim's devices and phone or laptop, so we will, from there we will extract, we will monitor, we will copy from that.
All right. And then there's the other thing, that's the verbal sexual harassment, because yes, as you've mentioned before, Inspector, that the victims can actually get a witness to support in the police report, like as a witness of knowing this crime that happened. What other things needed other than having a witness for verbal sexual harassment? Because it's just mouth to mouth, meaning it's just words. Unless you suddenly have your phone recorded. We don't do that usually, like having our phone automatically recording everything that's been said around. So what else is needed in order to like secure the evidences?
Okay, for verbal is a bit difficult because it's between the victim and the suspect. And yes, like you say, we won't hold headphone or automatic recording anything. The victim was alone, sure will be alone. The place also will be no like CCTV. So it's a bit difficult to collect the evidence. That's why if anything happen to victim, so up in the condition of the victim is trauma or panic, they must, sure they will find someone to tell, or they can jot down the time or date, the details of the suspect, the exact word they tell, the statement they tell. Sometimes it happened few times. Sometimes maybe first time victim was like don't want to do anything, so they can know, okay, on first time happened on this day. Okay, second it happened again after 1 or 2 days or after few hours, so they can collect this one, they can jot down that one also, can be witnesses.
All right. Now, this is an interesting form of sexual harassment, and it's the psychological sexual harassment. It's in which case where the victims feel psychologically hurt. It hurts mentally for the victims, and maybe probably like body shaming and all of the other aspects of that. So do police usually ever handle a psychological form of sexual harassment before? And if yes, how do they handle it?
If psychological sexual harassment, so far for me, I don't handle, but I have been since my senior handle this kind of cases, but it's a bit tough. It's a bit tough because it's not easier to get clear picture what the victim go through. It's because they see us like an enforcement officer. When they sit with a counselor or psychological doctor, when they will come out, when they tell the story is different. When they see an officer is, they will straight to tell what happened, what suspect done, but the way maybe they see her, the way is different. So it a bit tough to her to get in their shoe to get the clear picture. But emotionally and disturbed. But that one normally the process is not easy.
All right, thank you so much for that, Inspector. So now there are certain cases, and this is actually one of the most critical forms of situation whereby after the victims have made a police report, the perpetrators intended to report on the victims back, claiming that probably the victims just do it on purpose or try to tarnish their names, false claims, doxing, and so many more excuses. So if let's say this ever happens to the victims, what should the victims do in order to secure and ensure that the perpetrators don't mislead the police force and make as if the victims are the ones who were at fault, when actually it's the victims who are the ones who are in trouble and the perpetrators should be brought to justice?
Okay. For if the harasser or suspect came with any report telling the victim is the incident is not happened, the incident is not true or something else. But normally for the victim is victim. So the suspect is like the person will be suspect. So the charge to charge or not charge will be under control power of DPP, public prosecutor. So once have been charged, the suspect will use that report to defend himself. In meanwhile, the case go trial. If the victim have any problem or they have continue having disturbance from the victim, suspect sides or suspect family or anyone from the suspect sides, they can lodge a report. This report will be referred to court also during the trial case.
All right, so that means this whole entire process would just all be brought to court case.
Yeah. So from the court, it will be, if the suspect when the case go for trial, it will go trial until the end, whether to prove whether this incident happened or not. So all the evidence, all the even material or not material, one we collect, we will produce to court. So at the end, the judge will the suspect will be sentenced. So that's why the case will go for trial.
That is very understandable. So meaning if let's say the suspect ever decides to do that, the victims should just only collect the evidences and ensure that they're at the right side. So in order to brought to court, and then basically it's just all up to the judge to decide who's the one at fault and who's the one who's right.
Yeah,
okay.
It's correct.
All right, so there you go for the viewers watching this. So if let's say this ever happens to you out there, so the most important thing is just finding your evidences. Now, Inspector, if let's say, because sometimes victims, they feel unfair, feel like if let's say the suspect's not getting anything, or the suspects seem to be nothing much is happening to them during the investigation. So the extra effort to expose that suspect and to let the maybe whoever around them know that the suspect is the evil one, they sexually harassed them. So they did all the extra efforts in trying to collect more evidences to prove that the suspect is the bad one. So is that considered a crime, which actually, might twist the story around and it make it seems that the victims are also at fault?
Okay, means after all everything being done, the suspect is still out freely. They should the victim can talk directly to the officer who handled the case, and she can get the reason what the reason the case have been like that, and then they can go to further. They can appeal to further investigate or to open back the case to see where the thing is maybe something is wrong or something is very lack in which part they can get advisable. Normally, I got to see some victims will go for lawyers or they get advice to go to again for these cases which they're not satisfied. They say they have so many evidences, they report on time, everything, but there is something which make the case is closed. Yeah, they can refer back again that case again.
So another question is that, because like the perpetrators doing this, is their status probably going to be affecting the whole entire investigation? Like probably if the perpetrators are, the higher ranks or, let's say someone important in the society. So does this affect the speed of the investigation?
Actually, there is no such thing. So when we start our investigation on one cases, for us it will be a suspect. We remand the person also under suspect to investigation only. So if we will see him as a suspect of the cases, not as a VIP of any person who have influence in any polity or government or any center or anything. No, there is no such thing because our part we investigate only. So the public prosecutor also same like that. So they will see all the evidence, they will see all the case paper file, all they will give charge on this person.
All right. So now it's a different shift a bit for the perpetrators. If let's say they are retired, so this perpetrator, maybe he worked in a company before or he's worked basically somewhere in an organization, but the perpetrator's been retired. He's no longer working there, but he did do it before to the victim, sexually harassing in maybe physical, verbal, anything. But he has done it before. It's just that he's retired. So does that affect the investigation?
No. The incident, the suspect do when he's still working there. Means the incident happened in the workplace. We will proceed as normal. We will investigate who the colleague is still there, who know the suspect and victim. If we will interview all the managers, supervisor. We will ask a report on his performance until from the day he joined until he retired. The suspect performance at the work we will ask also. So maybe it won't affect at all our investigation.
All right. But what if a police report has been made after the perpetrators retired? Meaning that it's like the other way around. The police report's been made, but the person's already retired from the company. Maybe it's been a while that he's retired. There was a time period there. So does this affect the investigation now?
No, this one won't affect our investigation. Because the company or any firm will have record of the person working, they have file regarding their performance, everything, every detail about the suspect. So it won't affect us in investigation.
All right. So that means, all in all, the investigations will go on smoothly. It's just that the victims, they need to be on time in their making a police report, getting all the evidences, and basically just obeying with all the procedures.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Inspector. There are some questions from the public that were gathered via Google form. And here is a question for you, Inspector, from the public. Now, this question was asked because, as I've mentioned before to you, about certain cases where victims felt unfair because seeing that the perpetrators seem to be walking around freely during the investigation, it seems like nothing was going on. And when certain cases were closed, you know, and the victims, they feel upset and they didn't really understand what happened and why. And when perpetrators reported back on the victims that they were making false claims, so victims, they felt that they do not deserve all of this, yet all this sometimes might happen. So they asked this question: how are the authorities trusted to handle sexual harassment cases?
Yes, of course. We as an enforcement officer, as I told before this, our part, we really do our investigation so that we can charge him at the court with the support of the DPP, because to charge or not to charge the suspect under the sexual harassment cases is on DPP. So they will fully reliable on our investigation. That's why we really say some thing like the details of the cases are very important. Evidence is second part. Maybe some incident we can see there is evidence, some is not. But we know the very basic thing. Okay, the victim get share a type of messages which is not is have a sexual content, but there is no proof at all. So that's this evidence part. So our part, we really do investigation to maximum. We try hard to collect everything so that we can get green light from PP to charge this person at the court.
One last question for you. What is your advice to the viewers watching this, especially university and college students, about sexual harassment?
Sexual harassment happen to both men and women. It happen every day. Is that only some victim is do want to come to lodge a report? Some are going to, maybe they go to some counselor or type, they will get some NGO first, is good thing. So they will accompany them to lodge a report. Some even don't want to do anything at all. They maybe feel shy or scared or trauma, still in trauma, I don't know. So what we want, just make a simple report first, so that we will start on our investigation part. From there we can guide you. If don't have any idea at all, so that's why the person must talk to the closest person, family, relative or friends, especially when come to students. I think it won't be problem from them to lodge a report immediately if the incident happen, or they can talk to the superior also, their superior, if they're very close to their professor or lecturers all. So that's the only thing.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Inspector. Thank you so much for this very helpful session with you, Inspector. It's been very meaningful, and I'm sure that the viewers watching this, they would find it very informational to be knowing what to do and what is the process, and also how to accept and obey to all the procedures going on, in a way appreciating the forces and the authorities out there trying to solve all the cases that's going on. So thank you very much for that. To everyone who's watching this, I hope that you all gained all the info necessary. So do not ever be afraid. Remember to always protect yourself with supporting evidences state out every single detail of whatever that happened. Just walk into the police station immediately without any delay and make that first move. Thank you once again, Inspector Kalpana, for taking your time off your busy schedule to share with the viewers about the right steps in dealing with sexual harassment. May this finally bring a safer space for everybody. And also to all of you who are watching this, thank you so much for staying. Have a good night and Happy New Year, everyone.